Fallout is a game with radiation in it, and radiation is usually a pretty bad thing. It can make you sick, destroy the world, and if you're really unlucky, even turn you into two-time Emmy Award nominated actor Walton Goggins. And with all this radiation around, I think it's time someone asks the question, can you beat Fallout 4 with only radiation? To get started, I've got to create the character that this challenge will be revolving around, and in my grand wisdom, I've decided to make him look like Australian federal opposition leader Peter Dutton, because that man sure loves his nuclear stuff. But while I'm creating Pete, let me explain what exactly I mean by beating Fallout 4 with only radiation. It's actually pretty simple. I can only damage enemies using radiation damage, and I can only heal using radiation. And with that out of the way, I present my evidence that Peter Dutton is actually pretty difficult to create in Fallout 4. Now, it's time for my stats. I named our new friend Radioactive Pete, and I put the majority of my points into endurance and intelligence, because I'm going to need a lot of those for some perks that will be absolutely integral to the completion of this challenge. I also threw a few points in agility and a couple in perception, before bolting away from my family at Mach 8 speeds to escape the stresses of parenthood, and the nukes as well, I suppose. Down in the vault, which my family somehow managed to follow me into, we went nap time, and I awoke to watch my beloved wife get murdered by Cornelius the Cockerel, and my son get kidnapped by the very same cock. That was a lot, so I went back asleep, then awoke to get out of this quite mediocre vault to get past the rad roaches. I did the classic shutting the door behind me trick, didn't do a particularly good job of it, but it worked in the end, so I left the vault and emerged into the world of Fallout 4. I used the special book to grab an extra point of agility. Now I need to do something about my inability to heal, and that means it is time to craft some rubber mats and some fence posts for XP, because to heal in this challenge I'll be relying on the Ghoulish perk, and the Ghoulish perk regenerates my health as I take radiation damage. For my last two perks I grabbed Medic and Nuclear Physicist, so now that my radiation weapons do more damage, I should probably go and get one, so I'm off to Diamond City. Now when it comes to radiation weapons in Fallout 4, there is only one that deals pure radiation damage, and that is the Gamma Gun. Usually you can find a Gamma Gun by killing some children of Atom. Seeing as I don't have a Gamma Gun yet, I can't kill anything. Fortunately, there is another way, and this other way will require a journey to the Glowing Sea. So when I arrived at Diamond City, I bought myself a hazmat suit and started my trek to and through the Glowing Sea until I arrived at a decayed reactor site. There's a bit of an issue at the reactor site though. The Gamma Gun is being guarded by a little bit of a Deathclaw, so that is just wonderful. I tried letting some local rad scorpions deal with the Deathclaw for me, but the Deathclaw won that fight, so it looks like I'm gonna have to handle this situation myself. My only real course of action here is to run past the Deathclaw, grab the Gamma Gun, and then keep running. But that is a lot easier said than done. It is in fact a most difficult task. It took me quite a few tries to grab the Gamma Gun without being thundercutted by this up looking lizard, but I eventually pulled it off and started running to my next destination. But mark my words, I will return for that Deathclaw and make it deeply regret ever crossing my path. And my next destination is the Crater of Atom, because I may have a Gamma Gun now, but some ammo for it would be nice. Fortunately, Brother Ogden has got me covered. Honestly, I'm so thankful to him for selling me this ammo that I'm not even going to make fun of him for being named Ogden. But the ammo I got from Ogden isn't going to be enough. I mean, this stuff is expensive, really expensive. So I need to make some money, and there's no better way to make money in early game Fallout 4 than Diamond City Blues. Paul didn't make it unfortunately, but Henry has got us covered and organized the chem heist. But first, I'm gonna need more money so I can have some ammo to do the heist. To get started with the money, I headed back to Sanctuary and built my first industrial water purifier, because this need for money is not gonna go anywhere, so I need to start setting up some long-term investments right here at the start of the challenge. But I still need to get caps, to buy ammo, to get chems. So I looted Red Rocket and Concord to give myself a little boost in stuff to sell, and then I lost a fight with the wretched red car as I was leaving. I tried buying some ammo in Diamond City, but both Arturo and Myrna have betrayed me and will not sell gamma rounds. So unfortunately for the time being, I'm going to be having to travel to the Glowing Sea for all of my ammo needs. So I bought myself 19 gamma rounds from Ogden, then left to go steal myself some delicious chems. I tried to fight all these guys fairly, but that didn't work well for me, so on my second attempt, I was a bit more sneaky with it, and that worked wonderfully. This gamma gun is really good at giving people very very lethal doses of radiation. It's just a shame that it barely works on robots, it barely works on super mutants, it barely works on people wearing power armor, and it does not work at all on ghouls. If it wasn't for all that, this gun would actually be pretty great. And with the guards all relieved of duty, I stole the drugs and went to go sell them. And with the wealth that this has provided me, I got some ammo from old mate Ogden, visited Good Neighbor to sell some more of my, quite frankly, illegal goods, before heading down into Park Street Station to free Nick Valentine. In the station, it pretty quickly became clear to me that I still don't have enough ammo to get to Nick, but I had just enough to clear out this top room and enough to clear out the train platform below, leaving me with 0 gamma rounds for my gamma gun. I never knew killing people with only radiation was gonna be so expensive. It took more than one trip to Ogden to restock the ammo that I'm gonna need to continue with Park Street Station, so while I waited for him to restock, I built myself a bench to wait on in Sanctuary and had a nice swim in the nearby putrid river to regenerate the health I've lost so far in this challenge. I then returned to Ogden and went back and forth for a little while buying ammo at the Crater of Atom and waiting for it to restock back home at Sanctuary, until I had gone all the way from 0 rounds to 127 rounds, which should be more than enough for Skinny Malone and his friends. So I fast traveled back to Park Street Station and got back to work. And things are going pretty okay fighting through the station. My gamma gun is very effective and I have enough ammo now to really make the most of it. Just one problem: when I get hit by these triggermen, I have absolutely no way to regenerate my health, because most of this fighting is taking place in a vault, and vaults are kind of specifically designed to not have radiation in them. By the time I got up to the most delicious Fallout 4 character of all time, I was starting to get really worried about my health bar. Luckily for me though, talking to Nick means I have finished the Jewel of the Commonwealth quest, which leveled me up, and leveling up means a full health bar. So that's very convenient, but not the type of thing I'm going to be able to rely on moving forward in this challenge. The rest of the fight through Vault 114 was very, very, very easy, and I barely lost any health, because I'm just that good at games and never make any mistakes ever. So when I got to Skinny Malone, I couldn't be bothered talking and hit every single person in this room with my cancer ray until they fell over, never to stand up again. When I returned to Diamond City to sell off my stuff and start the hunt for Cornelius, something wonderful happened. Arturo had some gamma rounds in stock, so hopefully this means I'm going to be able to stop making trips all the way to the glowing sea to buy ammo. But now it's time to hunt down Cornelius the Cockerel. I spoke with Nick, bribed the mayor's assistant for the Bald Cock's house key, then I explored/looted the house and recruited Dogmeat to track this villainous mascot down. Before that though, I made a quick stop off to add to my fleet of water purifiers and to pick up the water that I've purified so far, which I used to purchase even more ammo. And now it is time to go to Fort Hagen. I would follow the dog, but I think at this point I've probably played Fallout 4 more times than I've asked people to subscribe to my channel, which you should definitely do, by the way. So because of that, I'll just find my own way to Fort Hagen. The journey went well, and at Fort Hagen I was very happy to discover that my gamma gun is decently effective against turrets. Inside the fort I discovered that it also works okay against synths. So those are two big reliefs, because honestly, seeing as the gamma gun is weak against robots, I really thought that might carry over to synths and turrets as well. My biggest problem here is health. By the time I cleared out the top area of Fort Hagen, it was getting very, very low, and I have not found any sources of radiation in the fort to get my health back up. I continued cautiously through some more of the fort downstairs, but seeing as I have my fight with Cornelius coming up, I'm gonna need more health than this. And also, I'm down to 2 gamma rounds, so I need to top up on ammo as well. So I watched this skeleton do its thing for a while. Then I left the fort and went to Sanctuary to build yet another water purifier and bathe in the glow of the river. Next, I went to Diamond City, and the gamma round stock here is looking pretty good. I think it was just being affected by my level, so now that I've got a decent way through the game, I should be able to rely on this rat hole of a city for my ammunition needs for the rest of the challenge. And well, my ammo is looking okay for now, but I want it to be a bit better than this. So I need something to do while my water purifiers get working. So I'm gonna go help out the Minutemen in Concord, because I'm gonna have to do that later anyway, so I can get their help to build the molecular relay. So I may as well just get this bit out of the way now and pick up some loot as I go. And I thought this was a great plan, and for the most part it was. Fighting through all the raiders was trivial, however there is one thing that I have to deal with that I kind of overlooked, and that is a Deathclaw. And as it turns out, giant irradiated chameleons have a pretty good resistance to radiation damage. So I'm gonna have to increase my tally of Deathclaws that I need to combat back to later to 2. Fortunately, I've got some water to sell now, so I went and bartered for some more ammo, then headed back to Fort Hagen to put an end to Cornelius the Cockerel's silly business once and for all. And fighting through the synths went pretty well. They did land some hits on me, but I hit way more shots on them. It's a little bit of an issue now. The synths are gone, but I am on extremely low health and now have to defeat Cornelius. I got right into it, and my gamma gun does really good damage against him in spite of the fact he is half robot, but it turned out to not be quite good enough. So I tried again with the assistance of some chems that I probably should have used the first time anyway, and absolutely wiped the floor with Cornelius the Cockerel, putting his vile reign of terror to an end. This leads to a new reign of slightly more metallic terror, but that's a future me problem, and now it's time to take a relaxing rad bath, restock on ammo, then use my bath skills to take a quick swim around in Cornelius's memories, and then head out to the glowing sea to find Virgil. Usually getting to Virgil would be a bit of a hassle, but seeing as I can start off by just fast traveling to the crater of Atom, it was a very accomplishable short walk, and Virgil has of course tasked me with killing a Corsair. That'll take a lot of ammo though, so I went ahead and built another water purifier, then stocked up on some more of this overpriced bullshit before heading over to Green Tech Genetics to kill myself a Corsair. Now on the way up to the Corsair, there are an absolutely enormous amount of gunners for me to kill, and my gamma gun is pretty good at that. Once again, my big concern is running out of health. Fortunately, I'm close to leveling up, so that should help me out. Unfortunately, I leveled up near the start of this dungeon, so I am now back to square one as far as health is concerned. I've got a lot more gunners to fight, and it started pretty easy, but a little later on my health got very low, and I had to begin being very cautious with my attacks to avoid a swift death because of my damn near chronic radiation withdrawal. But I did eventually finish irradiating all of the gunners to death and found myself face to face with the Corsair. And this fight is definitely more difficult than the one against Cornelius. My gamma gun does a lot less damage against the Corsair, probably because he's a synth, not a human with synth bits. And something you may have noticed about the gamma gun is that it takes absolutely ages to reload. So while I'm waiting for it to reload, I hid in the closet, which proved to be a very effective strategy, and the Corsair went down before it could even kill me once. So I claimed its creeper flavored Dorito and went for a relaxing night swim to recover from the traumatic events that have just transpired. My next step is to find the railroad and get them to help me decode the creeper Dorito. There's just one problem with that: the Old North Church is absolutely crawling with feral ghouls that I cannot fight. So I used some stealth boys to try and sneak past, but when it got to the point where I had to enter the stupid goddamn password that everyone says is easy to guess, things did not go so smoothly. Not only am I confessing here that when I first played Fallout 4 years ago, I had to Google that the password to the Railroad HQ was the word railroad because I couldn't figure it out on my own, I am also dealing with the fact that a horde of ghouls are slapping me from all sides while I try to enter the password. On the bright side, because of their radiation, I'm not losing health very quickly. The downside is I absolutely cannot enter the password accurately under these conditions. I managed to get around the ghouls by luring this particularly problematic one away from the door before I entered the password, and I had just enough time to enter it before the legions of rot set after me, and the railroad then kindly dealt with this ghoul situation for me. Inside the railroad HQ, I used my impressive 9 intelligence to get stuck on a table while Tinkler Tom decoded the Dorito for me. So I apologized to everyone involved and left to grab the teleporter schematics from Virgil. Now I need the Minutemen to help me build the thing, so I returned to Concord and, together with the assistance of the Brotherhood of Steel, reduced the number of Deathclaws on my list back to 1. Before the Minutemen will help me out though, I've got to become their leader by helping out a local settlement. The settlement just asked me to take out some raiders for them, which wasn't a challenge at all because no man is immune to the effects of acute radiation poisoning. Unless you're Walton Goggins, then it just somehow makes you look even more beautiful. Anyway, with that done, I became General of the Minutemen and got to work building this ridiculous contraption and a couple more water purifiers too while I'm at it. While I left on the teleporter, Preston, being Preston, informed me that another settlement needs my help before I vanish from his life forever and arrived inside the Institute. A stunning revelation: my son is now old and I think he's ugly and annoying and I just don't like him. I find all of that deeply relatable, so I shall be siding with the Institute for this challenge. It may also have something to do with the fact that if I side with the Institute, I don't have to fight a bunch of courses later, but the reasons why aren't what's important. My first order of of business is to meet the department heads, which I somehow managed to stay awake through, but now I have a new task. I've got to go collect a rogue synth turned Minuteman turned Raider from Libertalia. Before doing that, I went for yet another ammo restock using everything I looted while in the Institute, as well as my latest bunch of water, and these water yields are looking pretty amazing. I'm not really going to have to stress too much about caps anymore, so in future I'm not going to mention every single time I go to buy ammo with my water, because if I did that, this video would be longer than this really cool video I did being cyberpunk without cyberware. Anyway, it's Libertalia time, and unlike most missions in Fallout 4, this one is absolutely surrounded by irradiated water, so I can heal anytime I want to. Once I started climbing the tower, there was less radiation available, but the enemies are still weaker than my knees are after an 11-hour shift at the Knee Eviscerator factory, so they didn't take much of my health anyway. And at the top, subduing B592 was nothing to me, and killing his closest friends was somehow even less than nothing to me. Glory to the Institute. We definitely are not the bad guys or anything sinister like that. I personally think that kidnapping builds character. That was just a warm-up though. Father's next task for me is to go win the Battle of Bunker Hill, which is going to be a lot more difficult than Libertalia. So I went for a quick soak to rejuvenate myself and then got to work. And the railroad guys here aren't really a problem. Brotherhood Knights on the other hand, pure nightmare fuel. The rad resistance on their power armor is absolutely ludicrous on top of an already very beefy health bar, and having Gatling lasers that can completely rip me to shreds certainly doesn't make matters any easier. I do have one thing going for me though. Bunker Hill is very close to a large body of absolutely foul River Thames level water for me to relax in, so I can heal. But it would still be very nice if I wasn't having to deal with this stupendous bullshit throughout the battle. After dealing with these horrors for a lot longer than I would have liked to, I eventually made it under Bunker Hill, where things should be a little easier. Well, I want them to be a little easier, but it seems that may not actually be the case. On my next attempt, things went a lot smoother, and I was much more successful in my endeavor to give free tans to everyone I came across, and I managed to get past the worst of the enemies and make my way to the escaped synths. So I read them their recall codes before doubling back to get myself the hell out of here. The wicked, evil, and perhaps even diabolical Night Sergeant decided to give me one last headache on my way out, but on a second attempt I managed to slip past and swim myself to freedom, enjoying the lovely ionizing rays of this perfectly placed waterway. Finish the quest, I have to get to Father on the roof of the CIT ruins, and there are some super mutants in my way. I don't really need to fight them, but I decided to try anyway, and I was definitely correct earlier when I said my gamma gun is not very effective against super mutants. Not even the unbridled force of the Queensland harsh summer heat focused into ballistic form can make a significant dent in these guys. Anyway, when I got bored of playing with the green goobers, Father told me that he is very proud of me and that we have more to do inside the Institute. So I followed him back there and attended the directorate meeting where the ancient dusty piece of shit announced that he is dying and I'll be the next leader of the Institute. And to make matters even worse, he's just informed me that my next quest is mass fusion. And after how much of a struggle Bunker Hill just was, I really don't think I'm ready for mass fusion just yet. However, I have a plan for how I'm going to increase my power levels for mass fusion. I already have both ranks of nuclear physicist to increase my rad damage. So to increase damage further, I'm gonna go for a couple levels of bloody mess, and that is gonna require that I go get myself some XP, especially considering I need 2 more points in luck to even take the perk. But before that, I'm gonna need an armor upgrade. So I purchased some combat armor from Arturo and upgraded it a little bit, and I gotta say, with this Enclave paint, I'm looking pretty good, especially for someone based off of Peter Dutton. And now it's time to get some XP, and I haven't played Fallout 4 at all since the next gen update last year. So I picked up one of the quests that was added in that update called Speak of the Devil and went off to try it out. To start off with, I went to an empty electronics store to read a note that sent me to a relay station that had Enclave members in it, which, yeah, whatever, sure. I was under the impression that the Enclave was defeated in Fallout 2 and in Fallout 3. Why not put them in Fallout 4 as well, I guess. Anyway, I finished killing these people that should not be here and played around with a terminal to get sent to the cop office, and there are just some basic raiders in here. The type of raiders that I can kill before they land a shot on me. So this wasn't very challenging. I did find an encrypted holotape though, and it was a big challenge to solve. Finding the note with the password on it in a hole in the wall right right next to where I found the holotape. It nearly killed me, but I have survived the ordeal, and this holotape says I must now go to yet another relay tower. This one was protected by mole rats, which were somehow more difficult than the raiders, but not by much. Once the little beauties were destroyed, the terminal gave me my final destination, the Boston Police rationing site, and it was there that I found something quite interesting, a set of beautiful Enclave power armor, and I would use this power armor, except I don't really like using power armor, and also there is the risk that I could accidentally damage enemies with something other than radiation when falling from heights in the power armor. So I just stole some of its bits to sell later and was confronted by more Enclave guys who should not be in this game. They were very, very easy to kill, and I am now one level through the 4 that I'm gonna need. For my next level up, I built some wooden posts and shelves, then I went to Red Rocket and built some rubber mats, some more shelves, and finally some more posts. What I could do next is get 2 more level ups, but instead, since some of these points need to go into my luck stat, I took a very long, very refreshing, and very revitalizing swim over to Spectacle Island and grabbed the luck bobblehead. Now, I just have 1 level up to go, and to get that, I'm gonna go take over Starlit Drive-In. The only enemies are some mole rats, so I deleted them with my evil gun of great and powerful evil, and built myself a settlement recruitment beacon to make Preston happy, which was pretty dumb of me, because no matter what you do, that man is never happy. The XP from this quest won't be enough for me though, so while I'm at Starlight, I went ahead and built some more shelves and fence posts, giving me the XP I need to take the first 2 ranks of Bloody Mess. And that means it is now time for Mass Fusion. I started off with a legendary knight, and Bloody Mess is definitely making a noticeable difference in my damage output. Too bad this useless piece of shit dropped me a fucking Mutant Slayer's left arm instead of something remotely usable. Anyway, there's another knight up here, and this one has power armor. And if I'm being honest, the power armor makes the difference from Bloody Mess a lot less noticeable. I'm sure it's doing something, but this still takes absolutely forever. And I did eventually defeat the knight with plenty of help from Ellie Fillmore, who has to be here to help me, but I'm now on extremely low health right at the beginning of this mission, and will now be heading down an elevator with an open window past a whole heap of violent Brotherhood gimps that want to kill me. I did manage to make it down the elevator by sneaking at the opposite side of the elevator to Allie, so I don't catch any stray bullets while they shoot at her. On the ground level, I'm happy to say that I came across a miracle. There is a little nuclear reactor here, so I have the opportunity to bathe in its nourishing rays and get some health back. That is, if no one shoots me while I'm at it. Next time, I slowly ended my life with radiation poisoning in a more sneaky way, and that, in addition to the discovery that walking into the reactor like this gives me more rads, I was able to get my health back in a pretty good place. And with my health full again, I turned the elevator back on and continued my descent without any Brotherhood bullies making me cry glowing green tears. Once I reached the bottom, I was given the privilege to share my acute radiation sickness with the Brotherhood of Steel. They are weak and feeble compared to my strength though, so they perished from the radiation, and I moved on to the basement to grab the beryllium agitator. Before entering the chamber, I soaked up some more rats, because I am absolutely terrified about having to fight a sentry bot and 2 assaultrons. I think this might just be the hardest fight that I have to do in this entire challenge. So I grabbed the agitator and exited the chamber to get started. And it turns out I was completely wrong. My gamma gun is very effective against the sentry bot, and I killed it pretty much instantly. And then, believe it or not, the assaultrons were actually even easier. 1 reload's worth of ammo nearly killed both of them, so I just had to clean them up a little after a reload, and now Mass Fusion is done. So I made my escape and headed back to Father for my next task. Now I need to convince someone to join the Institute. My charisma skill is at 1 though, so instead he was knocked unconscious and kidnapped, as is Institute tradition. Then I recorded a speech threatening the Commonwealth, broadcasted the speech from Diamond City Radio, activated a nuclear reactor for the glory of Atom, and attended a directorate meeting. Time for some real fun now though. The railroad must be destroyed, and it is me that shall do it. They will deeply regret trapping me on that table earlier. Since the door's already unlocked, I could just run straight past the ghouls this time and start irradiating the railroad. These guys weren't too strong, but while you're watching me fight them, if you've been enjoying this video and want to see more, then subscribe now, or I will irradiate you just like I'm doing to the railroad. Maybe even worse than I'm doing to the railroad. You don't want to find out. Anyway, with the railroad defeated, Father gave me my final task, and it is no longer future me's problem. The Brotherhood of Steel is now present me's problem, and I must destroy them. To start with, the wicked and violent vile technophiles crash my game, but that trick will only work once. On my next attempt, I started off by fighting my way up these stairs and shooting the first thingy-mabob that must be destroyed. So now I have some synths backing me up. For the next contraption, I just had to run over and shoot the thing nice and easy. My health bar is unfortunately half empty now though. The next mechanical horror will be a little bit more difficult because there is an ugly, disgusting freak standing in my way. So now I have to thin out the herd a bit so that my synths and I can focus on this armored motherfucker. And after this vertibird went down, it was time, and we fired at the quite hideous man relentlessly with hatred in our hearts until he died from my radiation or the synth's energy weapons. It's kind of hard to tell who did more damage in situations like this. But now that the way is clear, I went up and destroyed the last electrical machine of terror. But my health is really low now, so I ran outside and took a soak in the heavily radioactive ocean water. I would drink some of it to speed things up, but ocean water is salty and I don't want to get dehydrated. Anyway, with my health up, now it's time to take this fight to Liberty Prime. I need to guard the synth at the top. Unfortunately, there's not going to be any way for me to heal up here, so this is going to be a game of pure endurance and sheer willpower. Unfortunately, I have fallen off the platform at the top of Liberty Prime, and while I was able to make my way back to the top, that fall meant that the Brotherhood members had an opportunity to make their way up as well, and they then put an end to whatever life I have left after all of this radiation. On my next attempt, I managed to keep my feet firmly planted on the ground and shot at the Brotherhood as hard as I could. Unfortunately, I wasn't quite focused enough on shooting at the Brotherhood members on the stairway up to where I was. I was shooting at all the ones out in the distance, so they managed to get up the stairway, killed me, and then after that, they killed me again. The next attempt, I can just feel it in my nuggets that it'll go well. And I was right. Through the power vested in me by dozens, if not hundreds, of lethal radiation doses, in addition to the power vested in me by our Lord and Savior, Chicken Joe, the greatest character in the history of fiction, I successfully shot down at the bottom of the stairs to stop the lunatic Brotherhood losers from following me up, and the synth finished dry humping Liberty Prime to completion. And with that done, I watched the Pridwin go bye-bye, then I watched Father do the same, and the end cutscene began. We are not done yet. We have one last individual that must go down. This Deathclaw hurt me at the start of this challenge, and I have not let that go. It will feel what I have felt and face the consequences of challenging me. So I shot it until it mutated from an alive Deathclaw into a dead Deathclaw. And with that done, I wandered through the glowing sea until I accidentally found a spot so radioactive that it has rendered me immortal. And that is how I beat Fallout 4 with only radiation. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. And an extra special thanks to Insect Liquid for being a member on this channel. If you want to get a shout out at the end of every video as well, click the join button down below. And with that out of the way, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.